Okay, so compound interest. And we're going to look at this, what's known as the compound interest formula. So this here is the compound interest formula. Okay, so it's F equals P bracket 1 plus I bracket to the power of T. So what do each of these parts stand for? So F represents the final amount. Okay, so it's the amount of compound interest. It's the final amount. When you put in an amount, it's how much plus it plus the compound interest you earn after a certain period of time. Okay, so it's what's known as the final amount. P is the principal. Okay, so the principal is like the money that you put in, you start off with. I is the interest rate, and T is the number of years that you've invested your money for. So this is what's known as the compound interest formula. So basically compound interest is, so let's say if we had, let's say you had a bank account and you had, let's say, €100. Okay, so you earned €100 and you put it into a bank account, and that was at an interest rate of, let's say, 10% per annum. So after, let's say, the first year, so the first year, so after the first year, you would get 10% of €100, which is €10. So after the first year, your balance would be €110. And then imagine after the second year, okay, at that same interest rate, it's going to be 10% of €110, which is going to be equal to €11, and that's going to be €11 added on to the 110, which would bring it up to, so €121. So it'd be euro 121 euro. And then this can go on and on and on, let's say for a number of years, depending on how long you keep it in. So this interest, so what's happening is you are getting interest on your initial investment, which is what's called the principal, and you get interest on that. And then the second year, you actually, the principal then becomes the 120 or the €110, and then you're actually accruing interest on the interest that you've earned. So that goes up to 121, and then you're going to get more in. You're going to get 10% interest on this, and so on and so forth until you depending on the time that you've actually left it in there for. So this is what's known as compound interest. So F, or the final amount, is like depending on, let's say in this case we've looked at it over 2 years, so F would be the final amount, so it's the amount that you end up with. So for example, it's €121 after 2 years at 10% interest. That's what's known as F, or the final amount in the formula. P is the principal amount, so that's the amount that you start off with, which is known as the principal amount. I is the interest rate, okay, so that's the interest rate that you pay. And your interest rate, I, is always has to be in decimal. It always has to be in decimal form. So for example, if your interest rate is 10%, when you're using the formula, that's going to be equal to 0.1%. So you always have to take the interest and change it into a decimal form. And then T is the number of years that you're putting the principal in and investing it over a period of time. So let's have a look at a typical question that you could be asked in relation to compound interest. So it's this question here. So I'll just give you a sec just to read the question. So when you're reading the question, you have to try and figure out what you're being asked to calculate. So in this question, we're being asked to work out the compound interest earned. Okay, so we need to find out, for example, what is the compound interest that is earned. That's what the question is asking you for. On an investment of €400, okay, so this €400, you have to be able to identify what you have then is the principal. Okay, so that's what's going to be put in. 2 years, that's going to be your t, or your time, and then the interest rate, which is 6%, that's your interest rate, which is I. And remember, you always have to put this in as a decimal. So for example, 6% is going to be equal to 0.06. 0.06. So what we can do then is we can take our formula and we can write out the formula, the compound interest formula. So F is equal to P times 1 plus the interest, and the interest is in decimal form, all raised to the power of t. So now what we can do is we can take the values from the question and we can substitute them into this formula. So we're trying to find f, or the final amount. So if we take the value, so that's going to be equal to 400 multiplied by 1 plus the interest rate in decimal form. So the interest rate is 6%. So if we change that into a decimal, it's 0.06. 0.06. So 0.06, and the time then is 2 years, so it's all to the power of 2. Okay, so that's what it looks like. So then what we can do is we can do what's inside the brackets first. So it's going to be 400 times 1 plus 0, that's going to be 1.06, and that's all raised to the power of 2. So 1.06 raised to the power of 2 is just 1.06 multiplied by 1.06. So if we multiply those together, so it's going to be 1.06 multiplied by 1.06, which is equal to 1.1236. So that's going to be 400 multiplied by 1.1236. Okay, so that's just so the next. So we've done what's inside the brackets. Then we have to multiply these by each other, and then it's going to be this amount multiplied by this. So it's going to be that multiplied by 400, and that's equal to 449.44. So that's equal to 449.44 euro. So what we can see then from this is that if we take our 400 euro and we invest it at a compound interest rate of 6% for 2 years, okay, after those 2 years, we'll have that amount, 400 euro, will have grown to 449.44. And the question, what it asked us to do was to find the compound interest earned. So this is the total amount that's earned, or F, but what we're interested in is the amount of compound interest that's actually earned. So the amount of compound interest that's earned is going to be the amount that so it's going to be this amount minus the amount that you put in. Okay, so the compound interest earned is going to be, so it's going to be 449.44 minus the 400 that you put in. Yeah. So minus the 400 that you put in. Okay, so that's going to leave us with roughly about 49.44 euro interest. That's how much interest you've earned. So this is just like a quick introduction to the compound interest formula and how to use the compound interest formula.